Hello and welcome to the National Leadership Briefing. My name is Doug Sharp and I will be your host for today. Well, we have the midsummer edition of the National Leadership Briefing today because, of course, this is the briefing that occurs right in the middle of summer, the August briefing, the first Friday of August. And we're thankful that you're here, but we understand, of course, that the summer brings with it all kinds of realities here that makes us want to adjust to fit your circumstances here at the briefing. So let me tell you what's going to be happening today. One of the things that you're going to see about today's briefing is that we are going to change the pace a little bit here today. We're going to slow it down. Now, we're still going to dig deep, but we're going to cover less ground and we're going to slow it down because we want to make sure that we take full advantage of this excess of time that we have midsummer, this little bit of extra time, I should say. Perhaps there's not an excess of time in anyone's lives, but there is a little bit extra time, and we want to make sure that we cover the material in a way that is effective for you. We also want to remind you that the National Leadership Briefing every single month is intended to meet two needs. One is it's intended to inform. We want you to be informed as to the opportunities that you have before you and me, to advance the principles of the four pillars and exercise influence into the realms of society, culture, politics, and government. But it is also a tool for you to use to grow your influence. So not only informing you, but turning you into an informer. And the way you accomplish that, of course, is to share the National Leadership Briefing with others and encourage them to join with us every month for 1 hour. Now, let me tell you what we're going to do about this briefing today, in our time together. We are, first of all, going to make sure that we're going to get you out at the top of the hour. We never go not a second past 1 hour, and we make sure that we fully respect your time. The second thing is that we're going to create a briefing today that you can use as an example to share with your friends, to share with those that are in your sphere of influence, people who share your views and values. You can share this briefing with them as a tool again and encourage them to register for the briefing themselves. So once you receive it in your hands, feel free to pass it on. Now, if you are someone who's never heard of the briefing and someone shared it with you, well, that means you can share it with someone else right away as well. So the idea is that we grow our influence by growing the number of us that are rallying around the things that we believe in, meeting on a regular basis, establishing those good habits of just touching base, looking for those opportunities and threats ahead of us, and then working together strategically as each of the briefings lays out the strategy. So I hope that's helpful for you to know that we're going to be doing that today, and I'm looking forward to serving you in the hour ahead. But let's take this quick break here, and we'll come back right away with the agenda and get right into it. Thanks for joining us again. Look forward to the next hour ahead. Bye for now. These are the things that we believe in. First, that parents have the right to raise their children the way they want. Second, that those we elect to serve us in civil government must respect and defend our right of belief and freedom of religion. Number three, that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable among us. And number four, that it is inappropriate to heap debt upon the backs of our children and future generations. They came from you. They're your pillars. They're the things that you believe. Okay, well, let's get started and review today's agenda. The time that we'll be spending together today will be broken into several sections. However, there is an overriding theme to every one of those sections, and that today is the anatomy of influence. We are looking at what it is that makes up influence by looking at some of the ground we have covered in the recent past and looking ahead to the opportunities that we have in the future. We're going to see that there is definitely a skeleton underneath the face of what it is we are doing here on the National Leadership Briefing. And the more you understand that skeleton and that structure to what we're doing, I believe the more effective you will be as we exercise individual strategies on the road ahead. So let's take a look. First of all, we're going to look, of course, at the 4 pillars you see behind me. We're going to touch on that. Then we're going to look at the circumstances that we are realizing and the opportunities that we're capitalizing on within the Conservative Party of Canada leadership election race. We've got what we're working on now, but we're also always looking to the horizon to what is immediately beyond that election. We're also going to be looking at the NLB Essentials, one of the videos on the NLB Essentials website page, and that is the Horizon training video. We're just going to touch on that and take a look at one opportunity and one threat that we are looking to prepare for on the road ahead. We're also going to be looking at what we call the National Leadership Briefing Service Dashboard today. Now, if you're new to the briefing and you haven't seen that before, we have a dashboard that we operate off of and that we've shared before, but there's one particular reason I want to bring it out again today is because we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of the importance of strategic prayer to envelop or wrap around all of the work that we do here. So we're going to touch on that. And then we're going to close out today with 2 things. One, we're going to be announcing, of course, the next event that we have coming up for those of you who have a heart for your city and are looking to be a part of transformation in your city. We have another event coming up, special event on August the 11th. I'll give you those details later. Plus, I'm going to also ask you if you would consider praying with us and becoming strategic prayer partners with us, as well as partnering with us financially. So that's the last thing that we're going to be sharing today. But until then, I want you just to sit back, relax. If you're note takers, feel free to take notes. But remember, everything that we cover on every national leadership briefing, for those of you who are registered for the briefing, you will receive at the end of today, you will receive the post notes and you will receive all of the resources that we refer to on the briefing. So again, if you're not registered, that might be incentive for you to take this video, go to the National Leadership Briefing website, which you'll see throughout the video is posted, go and register for the next one so you get the post notes as well. So let's get started here today. Let's start with, of course, with the theme of anatomy of influence. Let's bring you up to date as to where we're at with the Conservative Party of Canada leadership election race. Now, of course, you and I have both been preparing, and over the course of the last 4 or 5 months for this opportunity where you and I would receive in the mail. This was the goal line for us. We wanted to make sure that we received a ballot in the mail from the party so that we could have influence in the outcome of the leadership election race within that party. Now, reminding you again as to why we're doing this. We are not doing this because we are in pursuit of political power. That is just a byproduct of what it is that comes out of it. But we're doing this is because the person who and the people that are elected to these high offices in our land, leaders of parties, leader of the Prime Minister's office, premiers, all of these people who have high office, even school boards, trustees are considered high office. They are decision makers that daily review information and make decisions based on the information that they have before them and coming out of their views and values, and they're deciding on the care of our neighbor and the path or course of our nation. And if we are going to be electing someone who's going to be making those all-important decisions about the care of our neighbor, we want to make sure that that individual has a respect and understanding of our views and values, or better yet, shares our views and values. So that's why we engage in these all-important conversations. So you and I have been working on the Conservative Party of Canada leadership election race. We have all engaged in that process by participating as members in that party. We've purchased additional authority within that party. We've actually gone online or gone to one of the websites available to us and purchased for $15 a 1-year membership. And we received in the mail, because we're members, we received a ballot in the mail and are able to fill that out and send it back in to be counted. Now, that vote is coming up in September. They're going to be announcing on September the 10th who the winner is of that election. However, The anatomy of influence that we are looking at today goes far beyond just the leader of the party. No matter how the election turns out, with the election of the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, we are going to continue to work within that party. And let me give you an example of a couple of things that we're going to do. First of all, we're going to continue our work advancing the things that we believe in into the policy book of the Conservative Party of Canada. Because we have a membership in that party, we now have authority to vote on the policies of the party, the policies that are passed at convention. We also can take our membership that we got in the mail, that card on the bottom there, and we can take our membership and we can become activated at the local level. And I'm holding up this EDA guide that the organization Right Now produced, because it's a fantastic guide. And again, I'll include this in the post briefing notes for anyone who wants to serve locally on the local riding executive boards. Now, why would you want to serve on the local board of a Conservative Party of Canada electoral district association? Well, because that puts you at a table every single month with the candidate or the elected representative for your riding. They have meetings on a regular basis. They get together for a couple of hours and they make sure that they tackle the business of the local electoral district association board. There's things you have to do. It's actually work, but you participate, but you're sitting in a room with people who are representatives in government, and they are in the House of Commons voting on the things that they are considering when a legislative proposal comes through, for example. So this is why we want to make sure that we understand you've got the leadership election, but you've also got the policy book of the party, and you've got the local electoral district association meetings and your ability to participate in those as well. So it's part of an overall plan that at the end of the day will produce great influence within that party. Now, there's some people out there that say, Doug, why are you sharing your strategy publicly on what you're going to be doing within that party? And why don't you act more covertly? Because we're going to be presenting ourselves out there, putting ourselves out there as people of faith, entering this party, and we're going to be subject to attack and perhaps persecution. Well, you know what? People who are within that party are simply they're just voicing their views, and we're going in there to voice ours. So I've got nothing to hide. We're all above board. I have lots of people that I know within the party that don't share our views and values, and I simply say at the end of the day, look, I'm here because I have views and values that I want to see advanced into the conversations that take place within this party. And I'm here joining you. We can all work together, find the common ground. I'm willing to stand by any votes that we take. I'm willing to compete with you on a level playing field whenever there's that opportunity. But I want my ideas to compete as well with the ideas that you have about the care of our neighbor and our nation. That's why we're there in that party. So you'll find, if you track along with us on the National Leadership Briefing, that at the end of the day, you and I together, by adding our voices together within that party, are going to have great influence on not only the outcome of the leadership election race, the policy book, but what happens locally at the electoral district association level. Well, we'll leave it at there for now, but I wanted to make sure that you knew that on the road ahead, that is the plan moving forward. All right, I'm going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to come right back, and I'm going to go over a very important page on our website called the National Leadership Briefing Essentials page, and then we're going to move right into a couple of opportunities and threats that we have before us on the road that you need to know about. Thanks so much for your time for now. Look forward to serving you when we get back. Bye for now. Okay, welcome back. Let's keep going. We are moving forward on to looking at a very important page on our website. I want to make sure that for those of you who are brand new to the briefing, if you have not visited the National Leadership Briefing website, that's at nlbcanada.ca. Again, nlbcanada.ca. Then perhaps you don't know that there is a registration link on that front page, first of all, that you can share with others and encourage them to go to our website and join us not only for our future briefings, but also be on the list to receive the all-important post notes from each of the briefings that has the resources that we discuss. Now, on that page as well, the National Leadership Briefing main page, you'll find a menu tab that says the NLB Essentials. These are considered to be foundational videos that we would encourage you to watch if you are again, brand new to the site. Now, I'm going to include a direct link to those videos in our post notes again today. However, if you just navigate to nlbcanada.ca, go to the menu tab, look for NLB Essentials, you'll find the 4 videos there. These 4 videos will give you a very clear understanding as to who we are, what we believe, and what we are all hoping to accomplish by all coming together. You will also see what we suggest is the best way forward for us to work together strategically as we advance the things that we believe in into society, culture, politics, and government. So again, NLB Essentials webpage, please make sure you check that out if you are all brand new to the briefing. Doesn't hurt to always review, even if you have been around for a while as well. All right, so let's go and take a look at something that you're going to understand better as time goes on, is that we are always on the National Leadership Briefing scanning the horizon for what we consider to be opportunities for us to capitalize on, or the things that we view as threats that are coming at us that we need to prepare for. So I want to review one example of an opportunity and one example of a threat today so that you can have a real clear understanding as to what it is I'm referring to. First of all, let's take a look at an opportunity. We have just shared an opportunity with you when we enter the Conservative Party of Canada. Now, that's a political opportunity. And some people might think, Doug, is it just all about politics? No, it's not. It's actually just we have an awful lot of really good opportunities in the political realm right now. So we shared that one with you about the Conservative Party of Canada and the influence you and I can have together. And what we do is what we did, I should say, is that many months ago, we came to the National Leadership Briefing and I advised you that that opportunity was coming. We look on the horizon again. We look far off into the distance and we say, there is an opportunity. We need to use the immediate road ahead of us right now to prepare ourselves to capitalize on that opportunity as the opportunity comes. So you can use us on the National Leadership Briefing as kind of an overwatch or a bird dog for you as to what it is that we believe you should be focused on if you want to have influence as an individual citizen, or if you also want to add your voice to ours and use our combined influence when the opportunities come up. So that's a good example, the Conservative Party of Canada leadership election race and the opportunities that we're going to exercise within that party with regard to policy and the local electoral district association management. So that is one. Now, the opportunity I want to present to you today that we have seen now, it's right upon us as well. It's coming up right on us right now, is the Alberta United Conservative Party leadership election race. That is an opportunity that we have identified before again, and that we are tracking with and continuing to inform people as to what they need to know to fully engage in that process and advance again the principles of the 4 pillars into the conversation that's happening within that party as well. Now, you might say to yourself, Doug, I live in Saskatchewan, or I live in British Columbia, or I live in Nunavut, or I don't have any interest in the United Conservative Party leadership election race in Alberta. Well, let me just remind you of this, is that you too have provincial parties in your province, and very soon, within the next few years, there is quite likely you will also have leadership elections in your own province. So we use the examples of and share them with all the provinces, because we want you to prepare yourself for the one that's going to happen in your province. And the first thing that we want you to know, of course, is that the all important date of a leadership election at any level of government is not the election date itself. The very first thing we wanted everyone to know about in this particular case and in the Conservative Party of Canada leadership election was that the membership cutoff date for eligibility to receive a ballot was the most important date. So again, United Conservative Party, they're having a leadership election. They're also going to have a membership eligibility cutoff date, where if you're not a member by that date, you will not be able to vote for the leader of that party. So that date that I just mentioned is coming up very quickly within the United Conservative Party of Alberta, and it's on August the 12th. So if you're watching this video on the day of the briefing, it is now August the 5th. You only have 7 days in Alberta to go on the United Conservative Party website to get yourself a membership so that you can receive a ballot to vote for the leader in the upcoming race. Now, you might say to yourself, Doug, look, we're like 15, 20 minutes into this briefing. You've said a lot of stuff about politics and engaging in parties, and I don't know a thing about that. I don't know anything about political parties. I don't even know how to vote for a leader. I don't even know the difference between parties. Well, that is why we come on the briefing, is because we want to inform you over a period of time. But if you're unaware of what exactly is going on at this particular point, please don't be concerned, because if you just do what we ask you to do, for example, I'm asking you, if you're in Alberta, to join the United Conservative Party so that you do not miss the opportunity to get a ballot. If you just trust me and do that, then I'm going to commit to you to walking the road with you to help you make an informed choice as to who to vote for when the election ballot arrives in the mail to your house. So if you'll do that, I'll do that. We can do it together and everything's going to be fine. But you gotta, in this case, if you're watching this briefing, pardon me, on the day of the briefing and you've got 7 days, you don't have a lot of time to make that decision as to whether or not you trust me. So just do it and test me. Take me to test on this, okay? So that's the opportunity, is the United Conservative Party leadership election race in Alberta. And for those of you who aren't in Alberta, it's an opportunity for you to watch us and how we engage in that process so that you can do the same thing when your provincial party leadership elections come up in the future in your own provinces, okay? Now let's take a look at a threat. We have identified at the end of this past June, when there was a piece of legislation that was in the House of Commons, and it was Bill C-11. Now, again, you might say, oh my gosh, Doug, here you go again. You're talking about legislation and going through the House of Commons. I don't know anything about that. Again, please don't worry about it. Just try to focus on what I'm saying here. It's really important that when we see a piece of legislation that goes through the House of Commons that is a threat to us advancing the principles that are represented in these 4 pillars. If we see a piece of legislation that is in any way going to hinder a parent's ability to raise their children the way they want, if we see a piece of legislation that is going to disrespect or attack our individual right of belief or freedom of religion, if we see a piece of legislation that's going to present potential harm for citizens and even hurt vulnerable people that live among us in our communities, or if we see a piece of legislation or a budget that's going to continue to heap debt on the backs of our children or future generations, we consider that a threat. So this is an example of why we're looking at Bill C-11. It is going to place in the hands of government an awful lot of power to decide what it is you see and say on the internet. And this is what an attack on free speech. And for anyone who has views that they might consider are not the mainstream views of the current government of Canada, then obviously these are going to be threatened by this piece of legislation to give the government that kind of power. So in the post notes today, and again, this is something I give you, we can't go over all the details here, because of the limited time that we have. But in the post notes today, I'm going to be including that website again that I believe is an excellent body of information for you to grab a hold of understanding what the threat is. There's some action that you can take on the website. You can communicate with local politicians and let them know how you feel about this. And we can stand together and speak with a unified voice if you go to the website. So I'll give you the details. Look in the post notes today for a special website, and it's all about sharing information with your elected representatives as to why you oppose the government having this additional authority to determine what it is that I can say online and what I see online. So this as an independent source of information. Okay. All right. Well, then let's leave it at that then. And we're going to move on to the next section. Like I say, we're going to go into a little bit of depth, but I want to make sure that we're clear and continually moving forward that it's all about influence. We're looking at these opportunities and threats as either enhancing our ability to influence or hindering our ability to influence. That is part of the anatomy of influence that falls under the theme today. All right, let's come back after this quick break, and then we will continue on because I have a very exciting thing to talk about, and that is something that I am discovering about strategic prayer and the work that we do here on the National Leadership Briefing. Bye for now. Okay, well, it's good to be in the boardroom today. Again, it's been a while since we've been here. I love it here. This is where we dig deep. Remember, we're digging deeper today. We're going to spend a little bit more time kind of carving into some of the things that you might not have time for normally, but it's midsummer. So this is, for those of you who are not familiar with it, this is our own Canada Family Action National Leadership Briefing Service Dashboard. So this is what we operate off of within our organization in serving you, in serving the church in Canada, people of faith. We think in terms of this dashboard. Now, it might look very confusing to you right off the top, and we're not going to get into all of the components today, but I'm going to touch on a few of them just so you can get an idea of why it looks the way it does to us and how we use it. First of all, as you'll see here, the National Leadership Briefing, that is what you are seeing here. That is the face, pretty much, of our organization, the face that invites people to join us, to come and let us share with you the principles that we're working to advance into society, culture, politics, and government. So the National Leadership Briefing is one component of our service dashboard to others. However, there are other facets or areas that we work on. We work with churches and individuals and organizations in establishing what are called citizen action group ministries. So within your sphere of influence, whether you are a church or a member of a community, you might want to form a citizen action group to accomplish objectives or advance the things that you believe in within your community. And of course, we're hopeful that you use the principles that undergird the four pillars as part of your framework, but that's the Citizen Action Group ministry work that we do. We also have city action councils, the promotion within our organization for you, the citizen, to engage locally, for you to participate as an individual citizen with businesses, churches, and municipal government leaders to transform your community, to enhance the lives of your fellow citizens locally. Now, we're going to talk about the special event later on, which is another example of the work that we're doing there. But that citizen action, the City Action Council, pardon me, is something that's very important and something we focus on here through the National Leadership Briefing and through the work of our organization. And we also have what we call Kingdom Influence training and education materials. So when we find, for example, a resource partner that has specific knowledge in an area of interest to the people that we serve, we identify them and promote them through our organization. Let me give you an example. When euthanasia legislation was being advanced through the House of Commons, and it was of great concern to vulnerable people groups within our communities, then we introduced you to the Euthanasia Prevention Coalition and the work of Alex Schadenberg and his team, because we had vetted him and believed him and still believe him to be one of the foremost authorities on that issue, and someone who we could count on to provide us with quality information that was not going to be filtered through a mainstream media filter or bias, or it just was good. You're going to get the straight facts, and you are going to be able to then advance protections within your own community locally for people within your church or family, or as yourself as an individual. But that's an example of Kingdom Influence training and education. Now, I also wanted to point out the 4P here was because, and this brings us to the anatomy of influence, because when we see these opportunities and threats that exist on the horizon, remember, we're always on the National Leadership Briefing looking for what are the opportunities, what are the threats. Well, the 4P here means that's kind of like the research and development. That's where we see an opportunity on the horizon, but we have to deploy a specific strategy to respond. We may need to create new resources or products to actually be a part of the plan to respond to the opportunity or defend against the threat. So that's the 4P. Now, let me give you an example there, and it's the one that I want to give you today, because again, I'm not showing you this for no reason at all. I'm showing you this because I want you to see the importance of the presence of strategic prayer that envelops all of the work that we do here. That SPT, those are strategic prayer teams that cover us as we work to execute the strategy. So let me go through just the generalities here of the process we go through, and then I'm going to give you a specific example, or actually a few of them together, that is going to highlight the reason why it's so important to have that prayer in place. Okay, great. So let's take a look. First off, generalities again: horizons, looking for the opportunities and threats. We then develop a response plan by developing new products or bringing strategic partners in, whoever it is that we need to meet that threat, or perhaps we deploy some resources through our citizen action groups or our city action council ministries. These are the things that we're going to be doing. But then we drill and train. Once the plan is in place and the response is determined, we have to drill and train. And that's why we always come back every single month on the National Leadership Briefing, because we refresh ourselves in our understanding, first of all, as an example, of the principles themselves. If I said to you after the briefing today, Doug, if I said, what are the principles that undergird the 4 pillars, you may not be able to recite them all back. But if you come back every single month and you drill and train, and you come to understand what the 4 pillars are all about, and you get used to managing them, holding them in your hands, you're going to be able to respond maybe in 3 or 4 months down the road and say, hey, Doug, it's all about the parents' authority to raise their children the way they want. And it's all about our right of belief and freedom of religion. And it's all about making sure that those we elect to serve us pass laws and policies that protect the vulnerable that live among us in our communities. And we definitely want to lift that burden of debt that's been placed on the backs of our children and future generations. So you see how that just rolls off of my tongue, and you want to know why? Because I've been at every national leadership briefing since we started 3 years ago. Now, of course, I posted them, but that's really why I know them off the top of my head. So if you come back and you drill and train, you will become more efficient and effective at communicating these principles that we all share within your own sphere of influence, and add that influence to ours. And now all of a sudden we're building this greater and greater influence all across the nation in the realms of society, culture, politics, and government. Are you getting it? You see how it's all coming together? Okay, then after we drill and train and we're prepared, then we execute the strategy and deploy the resources. So if we've developed the products, we've used the national leadership briefing, we've communicated through our citizen action groups within churches and community centers, whatever, and then our city action councils are aware of what we're doing, and we also use the Kingdom Influence partners and the training and education materials that we need to actually to use in our hands. We've drilled and we've trained, and then we execute the strategy. Okay, now I'm going to give you a real life example of something that we considered to be a threat. And the response plan, again, bringing it down to understanding why strategic prayer teams and that prayer support all around the work that we do is so important. All right, first of all, we saw a threat on the horizon, and the threat was to vulnerable people that lived among us in our communities. And what that threat was the government of our day, the federal liberal government, was musing openly about changing the laws to decriminalize prostitution in our nation. Now, as we scan on the national leadership briefing the horizon and look to those threats, you might not understand what that threat is off the top. Maybe you've got no experience with the prostitution and understanding how it affects society. You might not know anything about the link to prostitution and organized crime, or maybe you're unaware that the majority of individuals who enter prostitution are actually human trafficked into the life of prostitution, that they're trafficking, they're traffic victims into prostitution. So what we do, again, is we identify the threat, we establish the plan, we bring new products to presence, we bring new training and education materials and resource partners together. And I'm going to give you an example of how we did that. Okay, first of all, we saw that the government was going to bring in the possibility of decriminalizing prostitution in our nation. We knew that it was going to place people in our communities at risk because they are young women and girls, and some young boys as well, would be trafficked into the life of prostitution. We know that wherever in the world they have decriminalized or legalized prostitution, they've created a very dangerous culture for young, vulnerable people. So we needed to develop this plan, and we brought in some experts. So we looked across Canada, and we saw that there were certain individuals who are doing great work in that area. First of all, we identified Grace Simon, and I'm going to be making sure you have her contact information in the post notes today. Grace Simon is a municipal councillor from Newmarket, Ontario, who with her city council introduced a bylaw that would license the body rub parlors and the massage parlors in her town so that they could put a face and a name on any human traffic victims that were being used within these body rub parlors and massage parlors. So the licensing regime that they put in place, we wanted to shine a light on it because it successfully addressed lifting these people to a place of protection, and we wanted to see that duplicated across the nation. So Grace Simon is a resource partner that provides training and education materials to anyone else across the nation who wants to duplicate what they did in Newmarket, Ontario. Another resource partner that we identified was Kathy Peters. Kathy Peters is a sex trafficking educator. She actually goes around to churches, to municipal councils. She even goes and meets with members of the police services, and she describes the circumstances of what is happening with regard to sex trafficking in our nation, what changes in the law would do to our vulnerable people, especially people that are in First Nations communities in our country. And she became a resource partner that provided information and training to the people we serve. Another resource partner came forward, and that is an academic by the name of Michael, we'll just call him Michael, who is working on research materials that looked at the system, the prostitution circumstances and the system in Germany. When Germany actually, over these past few years, legalized prostitution in their nation, they created a brothel of, basically it's a national brothel system that all of Europe is now feeding on. Basically, Germany has become the brothel of Europe because of the laws. And this academic had asked to, launched a research project to look at that. And so we wanted to make sure that we were in relationship with him, that whatever materials and whatever communication, whatever we could learn from him was then shared with people through the National Leadership Briefing. Okay, because again, one of the pillars is that the laws and policies of civil government must provide for the safety and security of the citizens, especially the vulnerable that lived among us in our communities. And we felt that young women and girls and young boys that were being trafficked into prostitution in Canada would definitely need to be better protected. And so we wanted to be on that case. Okay, so why strategic prayer? Okay, I'm going to give you an example why. We're in relationship with these people. We're talking to these resource partners. We're looking on the horizon. We see the threat. We're working on communicating with you. And all of a sudden we get a call from Michael, the academic. And Michael says, Doug, since I started this research project on this subject matter, looking at Germany, he said, I have been under attack. I'm experiencing challenges with my health. I'm experiencing challenges in my life. I'm experiencing professional, personal challenges. I won't get into the details, but he shared it with me. And I said, Michael, we definitely have to do something about that. So I took that need to a strategic prayer team that we work with. And I said, look, this is the work we're doing, but we've got these challenges. We need prayer for it. The prayer team prayed, and immediately back, I checked in with Michael, and Michael said night and day, from the difference between the way it was before to after the prayer started going up, covering the work that he was doing night and day. So now you've got an academic who is continuing to serve us as we execute a strategy through this whole time frame. So the response plan, drilling and training, executing and deploying. While we're doing all of this, the prayer has gone up and protected a component of that plan. Okay, then while Michael is working, Michael sees with what he's working with in his hands, he sees the need to provide very, very good protections to the First Nations communities in Canada. He sees the vulnerability. He knows what he's doing. He's an academic studying the issue, and he sees, wait a second, First Nations people are extremely vulnerable. We check in with Kathy Peters, who is our anti-human trafficking educator, one of our resource partners. And we say, Kathy, is this it? She goes, absolutely. First Nations people definitely need to get into those communities. So again, what do? We go back to our strategic prayer team and we ask them to provide us an opening, an opportunity where we can speak to leaders of within the First Nations communities of Canada to share our concerns about the move to decriminalize prostitution in our nation and the vulnerability that their community would be in if they in fact did that. So we had our prayer team deployed, they prayed over it, and then all of a sudden a man comes forward by the name of Murray. Murray comes forward, he's within the First Nations community, and he says, hey, Doug, I'd love to help you with that and pray for it. He's a member of the First Nations Communities of Canada. He said, but have you by chance been made aware of the fact that all of the leaders of the First Nations of Canada are meeting at an Assembly of First Nations meeting in Vancouver this next week? And I said, I was not aware. I was not aware. So there you go. You have a door open for us that I believe is a direct response to prayer. We have a door open to us where we can go in and make the connections and exercise the influence and advance these principles within a brand new community of people, and that's the Assembly of First Nations. So we contact Kathy Peters. Kathy Peters, our educator, anti-trafficking educator, goes down to the meeting and is greeted with great favor when she is there. The doors are opened up, they offer her a table, and we then go in to the meetings and we set up a table, and there Kathy is speaking directly to members of the First Nations Communities of Canada. All because I believe it's not because all of us showed up and worked and managed. No, all because I believe that we deferred to the need and understanding that prayer must cover our work. So if we have challenges, we go to the prayer teams. The prayer teams either provide the necessary cover or open the doors that are necessary for us to execute and deploy the strategies that we come up in. Now, this is what this means right here, by the way. Spec Ops is the special operations that we deploy, and think of these all as wheels, and they're just turning, and they're going back between the Kingdom Influence training and education people, back to the new products R&D, face of what do we talk about on the National Leadership Briefing, and we make sure that we're always coordinated. But the thing that wraps us all up is this wheel of strategic prayer that we need to keep rolling and covering and protecting us with. So that is what I wanted to share with you today, is that key part of our plan that is the strategic prayer teams. And when I come back, I'm going to be back at my desk here because I want to wrap things up here by telling you about a special event that we've got going and giving you an opportunity to participate as a prayer partner with us and a financial partner. If you want to provide resources to execute any of these strategies, I also want to provide you with that opportunity as well. So let's take a quick break. I know we've dug in a lot. We dug deep. I told you we would today. We dug deep, but I'm going to come back at my desk and we'll wrap it up in just a moment. Thanks so much for your attention and your time. Bye for now.
It's time to wake up from our slumber
and stand together, united as one. One family, one body, one church.
We will not walk past the vulnerable.
Say nothing, do nothing, and turn a blind eye.
We are citizens of a great nation.
We are good Samaritans to our neighbors. You are not alone.
We are the largest unified voice in Canada. So we stand united. This is our rally cry. We are Christ to our nation. This is our battle cry. He shall have dominion from sea to sea and from the river unto the ends of the earth. Righteousness will reign. Justice will prevail. We are united.
Okay, well, we are indeed on the home stretch today. Thank you so much for your attention so far. Let me just give you a couple of suggestions if you have a heart to pray for the work that we do here on the National Leadership Briefing. First of all, make sure that you are subscribed and you are registered for the briefings yourself. If someone's shared this video with you online or just a link, or you found it on Facebook, you are not registered for the National Leadership Briefing unless you go to the website at nlbcanada.ca. there again, when you register, you will find that you'll receive the post-briefing notes and valuable information to help guide your prayer. Another thing that you can do that's really important is to make sure that you are liking and subscribing to our YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the post notes, but you will find our YouTube channel very easily if you just search National Leadership Briefing. We'd also encourage you to join the distribution list of the National House of Prayer. Again, it's nhop.ca, nhop.ca. If you go there and register with them to receive their prayer updates. Now, they are not giving prayer updates for praying for our ministry specifically, but they have an anointing. I believe that they have a fantastic distribution for prayer points, an excellent tool for you there as well. And if you would like to join a national prayer network, we are also going to include links in the post-briefing notes to national prayer networks that pray for our nation on a regular basis as well. So these are just suggestions. You can sort of use it as a menu, pick out certain things that you like and use that. But thank you for considering, and thank you for even joining us today and considering praying for our organization, because we would welcome you joining our efforts. All right, moving on, we've also got an opportunity for people to financially partner with us. And I will just simply point out the website here for Canada Family Action. If you go to familyaction.ca, you'll find the links as to how you can either donate directly to the work that we do or e-transfer or however it is that you'd like to do it. But there you will find the information. The support of Canada Family Action is support for the National Leadership Briefing. And then finally today, I'm very excited to let you know about another special event. As I promised in the beginning, we have an event coming up for those who have a heart for your city, who would like to see your city transformed, to see the vulnerable people cared for, and to see cohesion between government and between the church and between businesses. We have been participating in distributing a series of conversations that have been taking place in support of what we call, if you'll remember this, our city action councils. City action councils. So what I would encourage you to do is look to the post-briefing notes today, because there you will find details of a call that we'll have on August the 11th. That's Thursday, August the 11th. It'll start at 11 a.m. Eastern time and go till noon. And on that call, every time we will bring forward information that you can use to help build a movement locally in your own city, in your own community. So please join us on that call. We have a special guest speaker again. This time here, we have Pastor Ken Gill of Ripple Ministries, and he's going to be talking with us about his heart to identify the fathers in your community and in your city. Very, very exciting times for us. We've got these great people that are coming forward. I'll also include, actually, you know what I'll do is I'll also include the last couple of presentations that were made at the last two meetings, so you can get a sense for not only how to get your city movement moving, and also the second presentation, which is how to fall in love with your local community and your city. So I'm looking forward to sharing that information with you in the post notes and on the call ahead. But until next time, this draws us to our close today. Until next time, please know that my heart is for you to participate in the National Leadership Briefing so that you can identify the things that you possess, the authorities that you have as a citizen, the authorities you possess as a constituent, the authorities you possess as a member of the kingdom of God, and someone who can make a difference in your community. We have a heart to see you come to an awareness of these things, because we know that when you know that you've got influence and start exercising it, you're going to enjoy doing it very much, and you're going to want to work with us and add your influence to ours, and we can all work together to really have a positive impact in the lives of our neighbor and our nation of Canada. But until next time, until we have that opportunity, please know I pray for you, for your family, and I will continue to pray for this wonderful nation of Canada. Bye for now. this arch that's over my head that says horizon right behind me, right? So here in the National Leadership Briefing, no matter what point it is that you join the briefing, that becomes your now, your present circumstance. That is when you are seeing the National Leadership Briefing for the first time. Well, what I'm going to suggest you do is when you do that is make sure you point out to the people that even though you're starting right now, we want you to think that off into the future, there's going to be an opportunity that we can capitalize on together to speak with a unified voice, or there might be something that is threatening to the things that we believe in, like parental authority, or maybe there's more debt being piled on the backs of our children. But we want you to immediately tell people that no matter when they come on the National Leadership Briefing, that we are scanning the horizon always, looking for those opportunities and threats. And then what we're doing is we're using the road ahead of us to prepare ourselves to capitalize on that opportunity or defend against that threat. This is why we get together on monthly increments, is because bit by bit each month we're preparing for that moment in time that we can see on the horizon when we need to speak and act in a unified way. Now, along the road there, I want to tell you what we're doing for you, and you can point this out to the people as well. You can let them know that we're going to screen out all the noise. We're going to make sure, because the time we have is so precious, is so brief each month, we're going to make sure that we're not going to let any of the noise, any of the mainstream media noise, there's going to be none of the political bias, and there's going to be zero ego, and it's all going to be focused on what we need to know to fully capitalize on the opportunity or defend against the threat in the future. And we're going to focus on the signal, the things that we definitely need to know, the hard facts, the data. We're going to do the right training that we need to do to be fully prepared at that time. So if you are having a difficult time with people popping on the briefing and popping off the briefing, I encourage you, please consider focus on and understand, letting them know that here it is, you're starting right now. We understand that things move fast, but we want you to really, really stick around long enough to understand and see the opportunities and threats that we're preparing for in the future. And of course, the best way to do that is to register the people for the National Leadership Briefing so they themselves can get that incremental brick by brick understanding along the way without feeling overwhelmed all at once. So that's my suggestion for you today, is get people registered, let them know it moves a little quickly, have them focus on the horizon, and tell them everything's going to be fine. And if you walk that road with them and are always just encouraging them and helping them along, I think you'll find the retention in your own local sphere of influence is going to be much higher. Well, I hope that's helpful for you today. We're sure excited about all the opportunities that we do have to capitalize on the future, and we're sure glad that we're all working together as we prepare for the threats that are on the horizon as well.